Greetings students. Today we're going to learn about a US-based computer hard disk drive manufacturer's company, Western Digital. It is famous for manufacturing computer storage devices. Let us know this company in a much better way. Western Digital Corporation was founded on April 23, 1970 by Alvin B. Phillips, a Motorola employee, as General Digital, initially and briefly a manufacturer of MOS test equipment. An integrated circuit maker and a storage products company, it rapidly became a specialty semiconductor maker with startup capital provided by several individual investors and industrial giant Emerson Electric Company. Around July 1971, it adopted its current name and soon introduced its first product, the WD-1402A UART. In 1970s, Western Digital was initially financed with startup capital provided by investors and Emerson Electric Company. WDC made its money by selling calculator chips through the early years of the 1970s, and by 1975, WDC was the largest independent calculator chip maker in the world. The oil crisis of the mid-1970s and the bankruptcy of its biggest calculator customer, Boma Instrument, changed its fortunes. However, and in 1976, Western Digital declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. After this, Emerson withdrew their support of the company and WDC was on its own. WDC introduced several landmark products during this time, including the MCP 1600 multi-chip, micro-coded CPU. The MCP 1600 was used to implement DEC's LSI 11 system and their own Pascal micro-engine microcomputer, which ran the UCSD P system version 3 and UCSD Pascal. The processor was also used in several single-chip floppy disk drive controller chips, notably the FD1771. However, the WD integrated circuit that arguably drove Western's forward integration was the 1771 chip, the first disk drive formatter controller replacing boards of TTL logic. Despite a price far higher than average CMOS chips of the time, it was very successful and extremely profitable. In 1980s, the FD1771 and its kin were WDC's first entry into the data storage industry. By the early 1980s, they were making hard disk drive controllers, and in 1983, they won the contract to provide IBM with controllers for the PC-80. That controller, the WD-1003, became the basis of the ATA interface, which WDC developed along with Compaq and Control Data Corporation's MPI division, now owned by Seagate Technology, starting in 1986. Throughout most of the 1980s, the family of controllers based on the WD-1003 provided the bulk of WDC's revenues and profits, and for a time generated enormous corporate growth. In 2001, Western Digital became the first manufacturer to offer mainstream ATA hard disk drives with 8 MB of disk buffer. At that time, most of desktop hard disk drives had 2 MB of buffer. WDC labeled these 8 MB models as special edition and distinguished them with the JB code. The 2 MB models had the BB code. In 2003, WD acquired most of the assets of bankrupt one-time market-leading magnetic hard disk read-write head developer Read-Write Corporation. As of 2004, the WD Raptor drives have 5 years of warranty, making them a more attractive choice for inexpensive storage servers, where a large number of drives in constant use increase the likelihood of a drive failure. In 2006, Western Digital introduced its MyBook line of mass-market and external hard drives that feature a compact book-like design. On the 7th October 2007, Western Digital released several editions of a single 1 TB hard drive, the largest on its MyBook line. On July 27, 2009, Western Digital announced the first 1 TB mobile hard disk drives, which shipped as both a Passport Series portable USB drive as well as a Scorpio Blue Series notebook drive. In October 2010, Western Digital announced the first 3 TB internal hard disk drive. In July 2012, Western Digital announced a Red series of drives designed for network-attached storages (NAS) devices. This series of drives has a special firmware designed for home small business environments, has better reliability than standard desktop drives, is more energy efficient, and comes with a 3-year warranty. In November 2013, Western Digital, through its HGST subsidiary, showed off new helium-filled 6 TB Ultrastar HE6 hard disk drives. When compared to regular air-filled HDDs, they claim 49% of reduction in power usage per terabyte of storage. WD sells many hard drives with warranties of 1, 2, 3 or 5 years included in the retail price, but it offers the customer the option of purchasing a longer 2 or 3-year warranty on its website. 3 years is the current industry standard, and while Seagate Technology, a competitor, used to offer a 5 years of warranty for all its drives, it recently moved back to a 1-year warranty for its bulk, bare OEM consumer level drives. They also have a replacement policy where a customer can replace a broken product with a new one up to 30 days after purchase. High-performance Raptor drives as well as the Caviar Black Series and RE Series still come with a 5-year warranty. In June 2013, one can no longer use a boot disk to test a modern WD drive independently of an operating system. In the explanatory note on its support site, Western Digital omits to elaborate on why it forces users to use Windows to test its drives, alluding to an OS X issue. Due to limitations in Mac OS X, you will need to connect your drive to a PC running Windows in order to run our diagnostics. Data Lifeguard Tools is a software utility suite for basic setup of hard disk developed under contract by Crawl On Track Incorporation, who also provides similar suites for other drive manufacturers. It runs on Microsoft Windows and DOS operating systems. It is free to download and use, however doesn't support modern WD drives, and installed drive will be ignored. As of September 30, 2009, Acronis WD Edition replaced Data Lifeguard Tools. Western Digital also ships WD Smartware with many of its drives for use as backup drives. This software backs up all documents, pictures, movies, emails and more on the drive and continually checks for changes to drive locations. This means that regular backup takes place. Lawsuits have been filed against hard disk manufacturers Seagate and Western Digital related to the claimed capacity of their drives. The drives are labeled using the long-standing convention of 1000 bytes to the kilobyte, resulting in a perceived capacity shortfall when reported by operating systems, out of which the majority uses 1024 bytes to the kilobyte. While Western Digital maintained that they use the indisputably correct industry standard for measuring and describing storage capacity and that they cannot be expected to reform the software industry, they agreed to settle in March 2006 with a $30 refund to affected customers in the form of backup and recovery software of the same value. A disclaimer is now included with all the drives explaining the capacity figures. Western Digital announced products in the over the top set-up box market to compete with the Apple TV, Roku and Google TV. Western Digital was the last manufacturer of the parallel ATA hard disk drives for desktop PCs, producing them until December 2013. Also, parallel ATA hard disk drives for laptops 2.5 inches in form factor with capacities of 250 GB and 320 GB were manufactured only by Western Digital. So students, we got to know about the various aspects of Western Digital. We went through the company's history to its achievements. Hope the information about the company was useful and have a good day ahead.